Okay. Now, got a lot of reading to do right here from my notes. So what do you see here? This isn't nothing. All I did, this is a Word document, and I just transferred my notes from my study onto this Word document so that you can read from my notes. So with the scriptures I have, and we're reading from my notes. So this is how I study. I'm giving you the picture. So when I say I study the Bible, everything that you're reading here, friend, I wrote it outside of the scriptures. I just copy and paste that, right? But all the notes in it, that came from my study time. And that's what you're reading. So this is how I study. And this is why it takes me so long to get through a book. Because this stuff it's a lot. And every time you read it and go read it again, there's more that pop up. And you're like, how did I miss that? Anyhow, so we were right here talking about this transgression and why it was so important. Now, because of the transgression, and we read over in Malachi what the transgression were, it had to do with the sacrifices, friends. It always had to do with the sacrifices. Was it dealing with their behavior? No, God doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about that. Why? Because you're going to behave based on the nature that you have. So why would he care about that? Why would God care when you got a divine nature? If you're saved, you're going to behave in that way. If you have a wicked nature, you're going to behave in that way. And nothing you do is going to change that. So it's the sacrifices that's all important. It's one transgression. What's that transgression? What do you do with Jesus Christ? That sacrifice. So because of the transgression, God did this. And only God gave his enemy. God gave his enemy? Yes. He gave his enemy, was given. God gave an enemy to his own enemy. It was given to the one to do what? To oppose the daily sacrifice. God says, shut it down. Shut it down. No more sacrifices. Now, I'm going to skip over all the way to the end, to Revelation, to the Antichrist. But this happened a second time. The only thing, it happens more than once, okay? It happened with Nebuchadnezzar. It happened with Antiochus. So let me bring it up to you. Just show it to you. This army thing. You say, oh God, why did God do that? No, friend, God did this several times. So this is Israel. Israel. They were given something. They were given the daily sacrifices. Now, what is it? Do you understand what God is talking about when he says the daily sacrifices? Do you understand that? Some of you don't. So this is Old Testament stuff, folks. So what God is talking about, they had a morning and an evening daily sacrifice. And what were they sacrificing? They were sacrificing the lamb. Okay? So in the morning, they had to sacrifice the lamb. And this was for the nation. It wasn't for the individual. The individual had to come with their own sacrifices. But they had a morning and evening sacrifice that they had to do every single day. They could not miss a day. All right? Now, there were several times where this sacrifice was interrupted. When was that? The first time that God interrupted the sacrifice is through this, Babylon. Whoa, Babylon, that name keeps coming up. Of course it keeps coming up. And why is it first? Because that's where evil religion, false religion began. The second time it got disrupted was with Antiochus Epiphanes, right? And this guy he was Greek, but he had territory over in Assyria. Okay? And the third time it got interrupted was with Rome. And this is when this happened in AD 70. So what happened? Babylon stopped it. God sent Nebuchadnezzar. Through the prophets, God said in Isaiah, God said in Jeremiah, God said, hey, and through Daniel, I'm sending Nebuchadnezzar. He said Nebuchadnezzar was my man, the rod of my hand. Nebuchadnezzar. Then God sent, you just read it yourself, God gave this man right here an army. He said the same thing about Nebuchadnezzar. They were polluting the offerings, so what did God do? God stopped it. He burned the temple with Nebuchadnezzar. He desecrated the temple with this man right here, Antiochus Epiphanes. He destroyed the temple right here. Doing what? Stopping the sacrifices. So what was this all about? The Jews polluted the sacrifices. He said they polluted no, man, the sacrifices represented Christ. They were polluting Christ. Forget the animals. The animals had nothing to do with this. This is all about Jesus Christ. The redemption that he was paying for the humans. The redemption that he was paying for the nation. God purchased a nation through blood. All the Old Testament blood was spilled for two reasons. One for a nation, where he would bring forth the Messiah. One for the people that the Messiah would bring. Got it? The nation brings forth the Messiah. The Messiah brings the people. So that's what the sacrifices are for. Now, it represented Jesus Christ. So have that in your mind when you're thinking about the daily sacrifices. He stopped it because they were polluting it. God raised up Nebuchadnezzar. That's what Daniel said. God raised up Antiochus to stop it. Remember he told him in Malachi, I wish somebody would shut the doors on these people to keep them from sacrificing to me. He did that. God did it himself. With pagans, with Nebuchadnezzar, with Antiochus, with Titus the Roman. God did it himself. He stopped them. And guess what? Ever since this happened, they haven't done a sacrifice since AD 70. Not a one. Why? God won't allow it. Until God's going to do it again. He's going to do it with the beast. The beast is going to make an agreement, and this is future, with Israel. The beast is going to allow Israel to build another temple. When they build that temple, you know what they're going to do? They're going to start doing this daily sacrifices again. And when they start doing that again, it's going to be the most blasphemous thing that the Jews have ever done. It was blasphemy right here. Why? Because Christ was now present on the earth, and they killed him. They killed the King of Glory. Now, God had his hand in it. God purposely did it, allowed them to do it, to bring about redemption for us. So don't just go blaming the Jews, friends. If it wasn't for that, folks, look, you and I would be in big, big trouble. So it was necessary that the Jews reject Christ. It was part of God's plan, part of that determined plan of God, his foreknowledge. That is his plan. So this was planned. Now, let me divide it for you. In AD, when Jesus died, AD 33, let's just say that's the year Christ died. After AD died, after AD 33, the sacrifices, remember, the animal sacrifices was looking forward to the Messiah. Well, the Messiah came. He was announced by the angels to the shepherds. He was proclaimed as he came upon the donkey, which was royalty, came into cities, these huge cities, on donkeys back in those days. All right? So he proclaimed his lordship and kingship. God killed it by using the Romans and the Jews and the children of Esau. Christ died. The animal sacrifices at that point became absolute blasphemy to God. They continued from AD 33 to AD 70 to do something which was absolute blasphemy to God. They continued with the animal sacrifices. I thought God wanted them to do animal sacrifices up until the time Christ came. But once Christ came, animals should have went away. They should have received their Messiah. And because they didn't, everything that they did for these 47 years or 37 years became total and complete blasphemy, because they were saying Jesus wasn't the Christ. And God says, no, I'm shutting it down. And he did in AD 70. When they started up again, underneath the beast, the Antichrist, when they started up again and they start doing this right here, you know what's going to happen? God isn't going to wait 37 years. God is going to wait 3.5 years. And then he's going to cause the Antichrist to shut it down again. Let me show it to you.